So for our listening test rubric, okay, so we have it is depend on the assessment objective that will be achieved by our students. So the first point will be able to listen and identify specific information in a short text or dialogue. And then the second point will be the student's ability to understand sequential information in familiar settings. And then for the third point is the student ability to understand simple narrative text, and also the last one will be the student ability to identify specific information in monologue or dialogue and write it down. Okay, so we have highlighted the important um
Main point.
yes, sorry, thank you. The important main points for our objectives. So how do we evaluate by using this objective is the students listening skills will be determined by the marks that will be given based on their correct answer. So overall our listening test will be 10 marks altogether. Therefore, one correct answer equivalent to 1 marks. Okay, so we are going straight to our first exercise. Isrin?
Okay, so for exercise 1 or question 1, if the learners or the student are able to answer correctly, then the student will be able to achieve the number 1 and also number 4 objective. The objective number 1 and number 4. So number 1, the students able to listen and identify specific information in a short text or dialogue, and the students are able to identify specific information in monologue or dialogue and also write it down.
Okay, thank you, Ezrin. Moving on to the second exercise, which will be explained by Amanda.
Okay, so in activity 2, if the students are able to answer the question correctly, therefore they achieve all of the objective actually, but it touches specifically on objective number 2, which is able to understand sequential information in familiar setting and also able to identify specific information in monologue or dialogue and write it down.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so moving on to the third exercise, which is will be explained by Belle.
For question 3, if the students are able to answer all the questions, they have achieved objective for the point 1 and point 3, which are able to listen and identify specific information in a short text or dialogue, and they are able to understand simple narrative text.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Belle. Thank you, everyone. So that is for the listening test rubric. Okay, so moving on to the speaking test rubric. Okay, so overall, this is our rubric. Okay, so before we start to explain band by band or stage by stage or level by level, okay, here is how we will evaluate the students. Okay, so the examiner, okay, they will make their assessment independently by using the appropriate scales, which is this one lah. our rubric. Okay, so the assessor or the person who will evaluate will mark by applying a performance descriptor from the analytic assessment scale, which is this one, the rubric, for the following criteria, which is grammar, vocabulary, and communicative competence. Okay, so we need the person who will evaluate the students need to remember that there are no right answer to the questions, and the candidates will not be evaluated or judged on based on their opinion, but only on the language that they use to express their opinion. Okay, so we will start from the from the zero score, where the candidate does not produce sufficient language to be accessed, or to be specific, the student does not use English language when she or he try present their opinion. Okay, and then moving on to the level 1.
Okay, meanwhile, for those students who achieve level 1, they, in terms of grammar, they can show only limited control of the simple grammatical structure, and they can link words or phrases with very basic connectors. Next, in terms of vocabulary, the students can use basic vocabulary to talk about everyday situations and also familiar topics, and they can also produce responses with frequent repetition of words and phrases. And lastly, for communicative competence, the students in level 1 can manage short utterances with much pausing, can initiate, maintain, and close a conversation with difficulty and using rehearsed phrases. And lastly, they also can indicate with words, intonation, and gestures that he or she does not understand.
Okay, now moving on to the second level, where the candidates or the students' performance has aspect of band 1 and band 3 performance. So this is in between band 1 and band 3. So that is how we evaluate the students, which will be getting band 2 for their speaking test. Okay, so for the band 3 will be explained by Amanda.
For the students who got band 3, as for in grammar, they can show sufficient control of simple grammatical structure, as well as use connectors to link simple sentences. For vocabulary, they can use vocabulary to talk about everyday situation and familiar topics, and also can mostly convey meaning but may use inappropriate vocabulary or some repetitions. And lastly, communicative competence, they make him or herself understood but may have pauses and false starts, and also can initiate, maintains, and close a conversation with some difficulties, and lastly can ask clarification when necessary.
Okay. All right. So for band 4, it's the same, similar to band 2. Sorry, similar to band 2, where the students' performance expect more of band 3 and less of band 5 performance. So that is how we will evaluate their speaking test, where they will get band 4. All right, so for band 5 will be explained by Belle.
In the speaking test, for those students who have band 5, in terms of grammar, They shows that a good degree of control of simple grammatical structures, and they can form longer sentences and link them together using basic cohesive devices. So for the vocabulary, it shows that students they can use a range of appropriate vocabulary to talk about everyday situations and familiar topics besides of students that can convey relevant meaning but may have some errors in vocabulary choice. So the last part is their communicative competence. In this term, students they can express him or herself clearly though there is some hesitation. Students also can initiate or maintain, develop and close conversation with little difficulty. And the last but not least, students can ask for clarification and further details in order to move a discussion forward.
Okay, so I guess that is for the speaking rubrics and how we should evaluate our students. That's all from us. Thank you.
She just wanna call me in the AM, no 8 but 4 in the morning. Say she don't mess with bad boys, but she love me. Guess I'm a good guy, not complaining.